Sometimes, life gives us moments that stop us cold, moments that make our heart skip, our breath catch, and our minds whisper, "This can't be real." That's exactly what happened the day little Emma walked into a stranger's house, pointed to a framed portrait on the wall, and softly said, "That's my mom." No one expected what would follow. Not the man sitting on the couch. Not the family hosting the community bake sale. And certainly not Emma, who was only 6 years old, holding a tiny red basket and wearing her favorite mustard yellow dress. Before we dive into this story, don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment to support the channel. You're watching Kindness Lights, where everyday hearts shine brightest. The story begins in a quiet suburban neighborhood, one of those places where lawns are trimmed, mailboxes are steady, and neighbors wave even if they don't know your name. Emma lived there with her dad, Tom, in a small townhouse at the end of Maple Street. Tom worked long hours, did his best with the lunch boxes and bedtime stories, and carried a heartbreak he tried hard to hide. Emma's mother, Lily, had passed away when Emma was just a baby. Emma never knew her mom except through photos, precious little snapshots Tom kept in a drawer because looking at them still hurt. One Saturday morning, the local community center organized a charity bake sale. Families opened their doors to the neighborhood, offering cookies, brownies, lemonade, anything to help raise money for a nearby children's hospital. Tom decided to take Emma, hoping the outing would be good for both of them. They walked house to house, enjoying the warm sun and the smell of sugar in the air. Emma held her tiny red basket proudly, collecting treats from friendly neighbors who adored her sweet smile and polite thank yous. But everything changed when they walked into a large white house near the corner. Emma stepped just a few feet inside, froze, and stared at a portrait hanging on the wall. It was a woman smiling gently, her blonde curls perfectly styled, her red dress glowing against a dark background. Emma lifted her small finger and whispered, "Daddy, that's Mommy." Tom's breath vanished. The man sitting nearby, Mark, looked up, confused. He followed Emma's gaze, then looked back at Tom with raised eyebrows. Tom rushed forward and knelt beside Emma. "Sweetheart," he said softly, "it just looks like her. Lots of people look alike, okay?" But Emma shook her head. "No. I know her. That's Mommy." Mark stood slowly. He glanced at the portrait, then at Tom again. "Is everything all right?" Tom felt embarrassed, overwhelmed, and unsure of what to say. "I'm sorry," he murmured. "My wife passed away years ago. My daughter thinks," he stopped, not wanting to impose his grief on a stranger. Mark's expression softened. "I'm sorry to hear that," he said gently. "But the woman in that photo, that's my sister, Sarah. She passed away too. 3 years ago." His voice wavered, the pain still fresh. The room grew quiet. Even the chatter from outside seemed to fade away. Emma walked closer to the portrait. "She's pretty," she said. "Just like my mommy." Mark swallowed hard. "She was," he whispered. Tom placed a hand on Emma's shoulder. "Come on, sweetheart. Let's not bother anyone." But before they could leave, Mark asked, "Wait, would you like to sit for a moment? I don't get to talk about my sister much anymore." There was something in his voice, fragile, hopeful, that made Tom pause. He nodded. They sat down in the living room, the framed portrait watching over them like a silent guardian. Mark shared stories about Sarah, how she loved cooking big holiday meals, how she never forgot birthdays, how she volunteered at shelters and wrote encouraging notes to strangers. Emma listened with wide-eyed wonder. Tom listened with a mix of gratitude and ache, reminded of the love he had lost. At one point, Mark asked Tom about Lily. Hesitant at first, Tom found himself telling stories he hadn't spoken aloud in years, stories about Lily's laugh, her kindness, her silly habit of putting sticky notes all over the house with reminders like, "Smile today," or, "You're doing great." As they talked, something unexpected happened. Two men, strangers minutes before, found comfort in each other's sorrow. Their griefs were different, but grief has a way of recognizing itself, like two shadows meeting in the same light. Emma wandered around the room and found a box of old note cards on a side table. She pulled one out and saw it was blank. Then she took a crayon from her basket and wrote, in her wobbly handwriting, "Be happy today. Mommy says so." She placed the note carefully under Sarah's portrait. When Mark saw it, he pressed a hand to his mouth, overwhelmed. "She used to leave notes just like this," he whispered. "Almost exactly." Tom felt tears sting his eyes. Emma didn't understand the weight of what she had done, but she had given Mark something priceless, a tiny spark of his sister's spirit, returning like a warm, unexpected breeze. Mark insisted they stay for cookies and lemonade. They laughed, shared memories, and even took a photo together, three people who began the afternoon as strangers and ended it as something closer to family. When it was time to go, Mark walked them to the door. "Your daughter," he said softly to Tom, "she brought something into this house today. Something I didn't know I needed." Tom smiled. "She does that." "Well," Mark said, wiping